In football, you have many different types of players. Firstly, you have the one club men that will stick with their boyhood club until the very end. But you also have the opposite of that. You have the journeymen who will always seek out a new challenge in different leagues across the world. And finally, you have the players that have zero loyalty to any clubs and will just go to their rivals just for the chance to get their hands on some silverware. But currently there is a player that doesn't fit any of these categories, with him having zero loyalty to any team, but his disloyalty isn't for the greater good of his career. This player in question is, of course, Chelsea's very own Romelu Lukaku. This is the story of football's biggest mercenary. In 2011, Chelsea signed an 18-year-old Romelu Lukaku from Anderlecht for £17 million. He would go on to make 10 appearances for the Blues in 3 years, and he would spend 2 of these 3 years out on loan to other Premier League clubs. Lukaku would first take a trip to the Midlands in the 2012-13 season with a loan move to West Brom, where he would introduce himself to the Premier League after scoring 17 goals in 35 appearances. This would include a famous hat-trick against Manchester United in an infamous 5-5 draw, which would also so happen to be Sir Alex Ferguson's last game in charge of the Red Devils. With Lukaku returning to Chelsea in red-hot form, it was only a matter of time until he was the first name on the team sheet. Well, that was until he did the worst thing you could possibly do while playing under Jose Mourinho, and that would be cost him a cup final against his greatest rival, Pep Guardiola. After missing the decisive penalty in the Super Cup against Pep's Bayern, Lukaku was shipped out on loan to the blue side of Merseyside, where he would net 15 in 31 games, showing the world that last season wasn't just a fluke. This loan spell would lead Everton to sign Lukaku in the summer for £28 million.
Will go all the way.
Lukaku is one of the most exciting talents in the league whilst at Everton, with him being one of the best strikers in the league for 3 years, scoring 53 goals in 110 league appearances, and in total it would be 87 goals in 166 total appearances. This would lead Romelu to become one of the most prolific goal scorers in the club's history at only 24, which I find quite remarkable. Lukaku would also be described by his former Everton and Belgium head coach Roberto Martinez as an excellent goal scorer, but also a team player, and would also describe him as the complete striker. During his time at Everton, Lukaku's public opinion on him was very good. He was loved by Evertonians, and fans of other clubs would admire his very physical approach to the game and all-round skill set as a number 9. But unfortunately, Romelu's positive reputation wouldn't last for too long. In 2017, Lukaku would turn down a new 5-year contract which would have earned him 140k a week. This decision would spark rumours of the 24-year-old wanting to return to Stamford Bridge. During this time is where Lukaku participated in his first interview that would cause controversy, which would later become a theme of his career. In this interview, he told Dominic King of the Daily Mail that he basically didn't think that Everton had the ambition to be a top club and they didn't compete for silverware or Champions League football. And obviously this did not sit right with fans, and even his manager Ronald Koeman at the time said he was upset by these comments and thinks that Lukaku should have more respect for the club, his employer, which obviously, if you wouldn't be happy if your employee was saying stuff about you and the rest of your your team, it is very inappropriate.
Here's Sanchez, laid off for Lukaku!
Summer of 2017, Lukaku would sign for Manchester United for £85 million, including add-ons. This would be £70 million up front, with £15 million worth of add-ons, part of the deal. Romelu would find himself at a club that had lots of history and ambition. Would this be where he finally breaks into the world-class bracket of players? Well, in his first season, he scored 27 goals in 51 appearances, but it wouldn't take long for Lukaku to upset his former fans after scoring against Everton in a 4-0 win and running over to the Everton fans and cupping his ears in a sign of disrespect. Although he once again scored more than 25 goals in a season, United fans weren't happy with his all-round play, with him struggling to impact games outside of scoring goals, with fans criticising his lack of movement and involvement in the build-up play, which would have become a theme of his Manchester United career. With this only being his debut season, he still had time to adapt and succeed at the biggest club in England. Well, his second season wasn't much better, and in fact, it was a lot worse. Lukaku scored 15 goals in 45 appearances, with the Belgian striker struggling to fit into the quick build-up play style, which was very reliant on quick passing and movement. His confidence would also take a hit in this period, with his finishing and decision-making deteriorating, leading him to miss easier chances and be more hesitant in front of goals, which would frustrate his supporters. And after only 2 seasons in Manchester, he would move on to his next challenge, which would be in Italy. Lukaku would leave England for 18 million euros, with him not being very well respected by Everton and Manchester United fans across the country.
Not been picked up there by Milan. Lukaku! 2-0!
After signing for Inter Milan in 2019 for a club record fee, Lukaku would go on to reveal his reason for leaving Manchester United is because he believed he was being used as a scapegoat by the club, and the fans, also claiming that the club failed to protect him from rumours in the media. This goes along with the theme of Lukaku going on to burn all bridges with his past clubs and their fan bases. Lukaku would go on to score on his Inter debut and finish the season with 23 league goals, helping his team finish second behind Juventus. So again, he's still there banging goals. So, you can't really blame him. And his second season, well, that would be even better, finishing with 24 league goals and leading Inter to their first league title since 2010. And it would look as if Lukaku had finally found his footballing home after 2 successful goal-scoring campaigns in Italy, and he was playing for a club which had a fan base that loved him and adored him. But despite being at a comfortable point in his career, this would be his final season in Italy, opting to go back to West London and try to prove himself at Chelsea, with the reason for this move being revealed later.
Here's Lukaku seeking a second, getting a second!
Coming off the back of winning the Champions League, Chelsea would break the bank to bring their former player back to the club for £97 million. Lukaku would state that he requested that Inter had reached an agreement with Chelsea so he could get his dream move back to the bridge without disrespecting his current club, which is a pleasant surprise. It's a nice change of pace. He would get off to a dream start, scoring in his second Chelsea debut against London rivals Arsenal, which would be followed by a brace against Aston Villa in the next game. He would then go on to miss around 6 games between October and November due to injury, which only looked like a minor setback at the time. Little did we know what would happen next. And this was until Lukaku did an interview with Sky Italia, the infamous interview I'm pretty sure we're all aware of by now, in December, where he would state he was not happy with his situation at Chelsea. He would also say that he would 100% have stayed at Inter if they granted his wish of offering him a new contract. So within only 5 months of being back at Chelsea, Lukaku has already stated that he does not want to be there, and the only reason he moved back to England was because he was annoyed at Inter for not offering him a new contract. To say this interview upset Chelsea fans would be an understatement. This interview would tarnish his return to Chelsea, with him putting in minimal effort in the games he would feature after this for the Blues, only scoring 15 goals in 44 games. Chelsea were very keen to offload Lukaku and try to recoup some of their losses after spending so much money on the attacker, but the only offer they would receive would be a season-long loan offer from who else but Inter Milan.
The goalkeeper didn't get it, Lukaku!
Lukaku would return to Milan on loan, scoring 14 goals in 37 appearances en route to a Champions League final. But this loan spell would unfortunately be overshadowed by his horrendous and disastrous cameo against Manchester City in the Champions League final, where I personally think he played well. I was very happy with his performance, but a lot of other people would disagree and say that he played bad. But personally, I thought he played quite well. And in this game, he would block a teammate's shot off the line, and he would also fire a header straight at Ederson from 4 yards out. This would lead to Inter losing 1-0. But that wasn't all though. It is now later been revealed that before the final, Lukaku was in contact with Inter's rivals Juventus to try and negotiate a possible move from Chelsea once his loan was up. This would lead to Inter no longer wanting anything to do with Lukaku, and the club's ultras even accusing him of betraying the club, and I can see why they'd feel betrayed by this. So as of right now, Lukaku isn't wanted by his own club Chelsea because he said that he didn't want to be there, and that the club that belonged to his heart was Inter, and if it was up to him, he'd still be playing for Inter. So then he goes out on loan to Inter and isn't wanted by Inter because he then goes behind their back and flirts with their rivals to try get a move. Like, none of this makes any sense to me. And it just leaves me wondering why Lukaku is happy to burn all of these bridges in his career. It's not like he's getting anything from this because he's only won 2 league titles and 2 domestic cups in his career. So it's clearly not for success. And he's clearly not doing what his heart wants, because the 2 clubs that were special to him were Chelsea and Inter, and he's just cut all ties with them and completely disrespected both clubs. So I do wonder why he does all of this. But that's where I'm going to leave it for today's video. Comment your opinions on the situation down below. Also, like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe, it really helps the channel out. And go check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Also, comment down below what you want to see next. But until next time, I've been Nathan, and I'll see you in the next one.